What's going on, you guys? My name is Wolf and welcome to today's video. So in today's video, we're going to talk about when to register for orientation. So I'm about to go register for classes. This is going to be summer classes, not really fall semester classes. This is summer classes. So for me, when I registered, I got the first orientation date. I was ahead of the game. Of course, there's already about half of orientation taken up already, but I was trying to get the first one because I wanted the opportunity to choose all the classes I wanted. So the main thing with this is you don't want to be deadlocked in a specific orientation date. You want the opportunity to choose your orientation date. So if you wait too long, you will most likely get deadlocked in a specific orientation date. But if you register early, you can have the opportunity to choose which one you want. Like, you can choose the beginning, the middle, or if you want, you can choose the end. I would not suggest going for the end if you have a choice unless it really corresponds with your schedule. That does ruin the chances of you getting a class that you do want. So even though you can't register just yet, most likely you can browse the classes that you can choose from. So you can decide what class you want and decide what professor you want. Decide if it's a good professor, if it's a good class, if it's something you want, if it's a good time. So if you choose the last orientation date, you might get a bad time, you might get a bad professor, you might get a bad class, you might not get the class you want at all. So you want to be ahead of the game. You want to be prepared and you want to be ahead of the game when it comes to registering for orientation. So instead of registering late for orientation, you want to register as soon as you can. You want to get all your ducks in a row and then choose your orientation date. You don't want to wait till last minute and just say, oh, I'll get to it later. Don't do that. Really, don't do that because you most likely will end up deadlocked in an orientation date that you don't want. So with the other orientations, you can work around like your work schedule or your family schedule and choose one you want because they have the specific dates. The college I go to now has about 6 or 7 different orientation dates. It's one day orientation. You have to stay overnight, but it's about one day. It's about half a day, a night, and then another half a day. The one I went to earlier for my freshman semester, for my freshman year, it was, I think 4 days? No, not 4 days. 4 orientation days for 5, and then you had to stay about 2 nights and 3 days. So I think that's why they had less, but sometimes you'll get less. Your college will have less orientation days. They don't have all the same number of orientation days. They don't have the same number of orientations that you can register for. So you want to get ahead and plan your specific orientation that you want and get all your ducks in a row and then register for orientation. You don't want to wait till last minute. You don't want to say, oh, I'll get to this when I get to it, because if you say that, then you're most likely not going to get to it, and you most likely will be deadlocked and be upset with the orientation you get, and then when you go to look for your classes, the class you want might be taken, because you have to think about it this way. You have the seniors, the juniors, the sophomores, and then the freshmen that maybe transferred or that are still freshmen in the semester. You have them ahead of you, so you want to try and get ahead and work out a plan and keep looking at your classes to make sure maybe you need a backup plan for your A plan, you need a B plan or a C plan. But registering a bit earlier than the last orientation date might make it so maybe you will get this class that you want with this professor at this time. So there's a bunch of different variables that go into this, into making sure you have a good schedule and to making sure that you get the class you want. So my brother's one of those that says, I'll get to it later. He hasn't registered for orientation yet. Orientation starts in June here. It starts in June here. He actually has 2 months to register for orientation, for the first orientation, or for orientation in general. That's when the first orientation starts. So the way it'll work is, as you finally look at the orientation date, when you say I'll do it later, some of them will be taken, some of them will be all out, because they have a specific number, the specific number that can register for it, so it'll be taken. So instead of saying I'll get to it later, set a specific date that you'll sign up for orientation when you know you have all your ducks in a row, and then register. That's my best suggestion for it. I don't suggest really waiting till the end of time unless you really do want the last orientation date, because the last orientation date is usually when you move into your dorm. So if you're like from a totally different state, maybe the last orientation date works for you so you don't have to fly down here or drive down here and take so much time away. So that's like one of the parts that maybe last orientation date will work for you. But if you live down here and you can get the first or second or third orientation date, I would totally suggest it. I would suggest registering early. I would just suggest registering early no matter where you are, so at least you'll have the orientation date you want and not be deadlocked on one you don't want. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. I have to go register for summer classes, so as usual you guys, I'll see you guys next time in the next video, so see you guys later.